In 1969, Richard Petty won his 100th NASCAR race, and Leith sold its first car in Raleigh. 50 years later, we're celebrating by sponsoring one of the most famous race car numbers in history. Richard Petty Motorsports and its driver, Bubba Wallace, coming up next on 0 to 60 TV. We're at Richard Petty Motorsports in Lexington, and I've got with me Darrell Wallace Jr., Bubba Wallace, as you know him as. And Bubba, thank you so much for inviting us by the race shop today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me out.
Super exciting that LeithCars.com is on your race car, on the Chevy Camaro ZL1. You're going to be racing this at the Charlotte ROVAL, September 29th. Before we get into talking about the ROVAL, though, Bubba, I wanted you to take us back, kind of like me being here as a fan. What was it like the day that Richard Petty calls you and asks you to be his driver for number 43?
Yeah, it was a special day. I know we were on the fence of if our season was going to finish out in the Xfinity car with Roush. And we seen that Eric had gotten into a wreck and hurt his back and broke his back, basically. And we knew that he would be out for a certain amount of races, so we were on the phone just trying to get in and trying to, take that next shot. And they called up and they were like, yeah, we'll give you a tryout and fill in for him. And then going into that off season, we knew that it was contract year for him and that kind of the seat was open. So we were on the phone again, hounding them to let us be full time, and finally got the opportunity. It wasn't yes. It was yes at first, and it was no, then it was yes again. So it was up and down, back and forth, but all in all, ended up working out, and super special day.
And that was like 2 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, it was going into 2018. So.
Yep. So recently, this was a big social media deal. You got a tattoo of Richard's famous signature.
Yeah.
Not on your arm. He wrote on your arm first.
Right.
So do you plan on getting any more ink?
So I got 2 tattoos that day. One for personal reasons for my grandmother, and then I got that one. So got that one on the back of my leg, so I don't have to see it every day when I wake up.
You challenged, like, if people retweeted it, I think.
Yeah,
like
I said 43,000, and in my head I meant like 43,000 in 24 hours, but I never put in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, we only got 39,000 in 24 hours, if anybody was wondering. So it did not reach that goal like I had thought, but yeah, I've definitely been looking at other tattoo ideas for more personal stuff as well. No more goofy stuff.
Yeah.
I've done that once, and that's it.
Cool. So, Bubba, you grew up, I believe, near Charlotte Motor Speedway. You start out, excuse me, like a lot of drivers do in the Bandoleros, the Legends cars. What was it like when you climbed in that Cup car for the first time at Charlotte Motor Speedway?
Well, it was a little crazy because the first time you get in the Cup cars for All-Star weekend, and last year we had a totally different package from what we were going to run at the 600. We had 450 horsepower versus 750 for the 600. So I went there, and it was really easy to drive, and going into it, it was like, man, Charlotte's really tough. You're really carrying a lot of speed down into turn 1. So my first taste was kind of like a false representation. And so then we come back the next week for the 600, and now we're carrying some steam. So, but it was always cool. I remember racing there when I was 10 on Thursday night, pole night for the 600. All the Cup teams were there, fans were out, and we were racing Bandoleros and Legend cars on the quarter-mile inside. And so it was kind of cool to see how it comes full circle, being there Thursday for pole night on the big track now. So really cool.
Exactly. And you had a big night at the All-Star race this season.
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
You've been in NASCAR, obviously coming up through the ranks for several years now. What would you say has been your biggest obstacle to overcome?
The biggest obstacle, I think, is really just trying to be on a consistent roll. We're such a small team, and so those good finishes that we have, for an example, finishing third at Indy, and then coming back and backing that up with a 23rd at Vegas. It's hard to get, complete race cars or or new race cars to go to the track each and every week. Big teams can have a new car and rebuild that new car to make it even better too before they go to the track. So for us, we're trying to massage and upgrade, older stuff, and then when we do get the opportunity to have new equipment, it shows. So I think just trying to break through and be on a consistent roll and have a steady climb. And for the last, I was looking at our stats, the last 4 months, we've continued to climb to the points, I'd say, and so that's been nice. So we picked up another spot this past weekend and keep on going.
And I'm glad you mentioned Indy, Bubba. I want you to try to take us back to that moment, I guess. Was it the last 10 laps or so when there were several restarts and maybe after that last restart, take us back, what's going through your mind? You're up there, just 2 cars in front of you. What was that like, Brickyard 400?
Yeah, I think it was a long race. There was a lot of cautions that day, and backing up to when we got there and unloaded for practice, we had a ton of speed. So I knew it was shaped up to be a good weekend. And once we got to that final restart, sitting third, I kind of had game planned it out in my head. I said, hopefully the 22 and the 4 gets racing side by side and wobble and let me get by. And they went down in the 3 side by side, and I was like a kid in a candy store. But they made it out, and I was like, oh, well, that was very anticlimactic. So we settled in for third and had to hold off Blaney and William Byron there at the end. So, yeah, it was an awesome day for sure. It was a positive, uplifting momentum day for us on top of the momentum we've already been bringing. So excited to see how we can finish out these next 9.
Yeah, exactly, and that brings us to the Charlotte ROVAL, where we're going to see Bubba driving this beautiful LeithCars.com Chevy Camaro ZL1 back here this is a hybrid race course, the Bank of America 400 ROVAL, road course and an oval. So, based on last year's experience at the ROVAL, what's something that you really liked about that track?
Probably how close it was to home. That's about it. The drive was only 10 minutes. Everything else I did not like.
Obviously, they had to make some some adjustments, and I think they made some adjustments going into this year's race. But at a track like a ROVAL that no one had been to before, this oval road course thing, what do you have to do, say coming up here for the 29th, what do you have to do to prepare for this ROVAL that might be different from how you prepare for super speedway, some of the more short tracks in NASCAR?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, you can definitely spend some time on the simulator learning, putting the corners back together, but it is tough. It's a challenging race, and looking back on it, we actually had a good race, ahead of, or looking back on practice and qualifying, we were just all over the place, but was able to put a good race together until that last big wreck in the 1 that we were just kind of collected, trying to stay out of it. But going back, definitely learned a lot from last year on how to manage tires and what corners you need to attack and don't need to attack. So I'm excited. It's, like I said, it's really close to home. It's another home race for us. But going there and it's like a redemption for myself. Just, I don't think it could be any worse than last year. So we'll go out and try to make the most of it.
Well, on behalf of LeithCars.com, Bubba, and I know you're fans of the 43, we're going to be pulling for you hard. So excited that you're driving the Camaro here with LeithCars.com on it, and we will see you, and we'll see you, Bubba, at the ROVAL in Charlotte. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bubba.
Absolutely.
Watch for Bubba Wallace and our LeithCars.com number 43 at the Charlotte ROVAL, September 29th. And start your search for great used cars like our Chevy Camaro or new cars, trucks, and SUVs at LeithCars.com. And we'll see you at the ROVAL.